at 4:40 p.m. And we have Jim Szoke on. Wait a minute. What's this? A Carolina Panthers win?
Is that even legal?
A Carolina Panthers win. Yeah.
Man, I'm going to tell you flat out, when they made him kick from 3 different distances, I thought, man, this disaster is going to happen.
And that used to be my kicker, Diesel. Pinheiro is a Florida Gator, so I know how his mind works. Like, he's the traditional kicker that, like, makes the spectacular kick but misses the gimme. Diesel, you know what? If you have that song Celebrate in the system, that'd be a great thing to open up with Jim Szoke today. In any case, great to have you guys with us. 844-FAN phone. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663. And the MadWorldAttractions.com text line is there for you at 71307. Just start your text with the word fan, and away you go on the show. Oh, my friends. Where do we want to start? I know where we're going to start, but at the same time, there are so many jumping off points here that it's hard to pick just one. You know, it's hard to pick just one. What was that product back in the day that said nobody can eat just one? I don't remember what that was.
Wasn't it Lay's?
Oh, might be.
Was it Lay's potato chips?
Might be. It's not a bad.
Wasn't Pringles?
Oh, I think it was Pringles. That might have been it. Anyway, special recognition.
Lay's potato chips.
There you go.
1983 is when that campaign started.
Boy, that's dating me. That's really dating me, Diesel. And by the way, if you're lonely, I think you'll find that dating yourself is you might be pretty good company. You know, so don't worry. Don't be worried about dating yourself.
Go get on Twitter, man. Somebody's going to tell you to go date yourself almost every day.
That's right. There you go. 844-FAN phone. That's 844-FANFONE. That's 844-326-3663 is the number. So, my friends, oh boy, gosh, this is one of those days where I wish NFL was more popular here than college football. And I don't have many of those days. That might actually be the first of those days. Okay. But Clemson, a double-digit favorite. Double-digit favorite. They look like the inferior of the two teams the entire freaking game. Now, I do want to make you guys aware of something. This is the point of the program when all of the South Carolina fans who think I kiss Dabo's backside and only say mean, nasty things about the Gamecocks. This is the point of the program where you get to tell the rest of the Gamecocks nation, no, Mark does the exact same thing. He calls a spade, no matter what side it is. Folks, the reality is on this team, they are completely and totally mediocre in every way, shape, and form. You know, Clemson is one of the teams in college football this year that gets the least out of the most. Their talent is top 5 in America. That's not just me saying that. It is by way of the 24/7 Sports Total Talent Composite. And with top 5 talent in America, you're getting 4 and 4. I believe this team has quit. All right? And I will allow you to throw my name in a crow mud pie on Monday of next week if I'm wrong. Okay? I believe this team has quit. Easiest money of the year, Diesel. This Notre Dame line for Clemson, you're not going to believe this, Diesel. You know what the line opened at, Notre Dame at Clemson? Notre Dame -1. What? Now it's Notre Dame -2 at Clemson. Notre Dame -30. How about it? Notre Dame -20. Pick your score. Pick your spread. What is it? You know, this Clemson team has quit, right? And that's not overly unpredictable, right? They've played for a lot of great things over the years. They're not playing for anything great this year. Dabo Swinney himself says that, look, you can't win the national championship anymore. You can't go to the college football playoff anymore. You can't win the ACC anymore. You can't win 10 games anymore. What can you do? Here's Dabo.
We'll have to start a new one. there's a reason why there's only 3 teams in the history of football to do that. I mean, it's hard to win, and but they end somewhere, right? There's all streaks come to an end somewhere along the way, and you start a new streak. So what a run, man! I mean, what a freaking run! Historic. Nobody wants to hear that right now.
Come on, Dabo. Come on. Historically
historic.
Embarrassing.
What
historically
we've been able to do as a
bad.
program, big picture. Right now we're in a rough patch, and we'll work our way out of it.
I'm so tired of this. Well, gosh, shucks, guys, winning is hard. Stop, dude. You won 10 games in a year for 12 years in a row. Don't give me this BS. Winning is hard. You've been doing it. You've been doing it for more than a decade. Other people are doing it in your face. You've got better talent than them. Where's Dabo getting mad? Where is he saying, guys, I realize we've got the talent on this roster to be a top 10 football team. We absolutely have the talent to be that kind of football team. But we're not getting it done. It's on me. It's on the staff. It's on all of us. It's on the players who aren't executing. It's on the coaches who aren't coaching them upright. It's on all of us. Where is that fired up Dabo?
Yeah, nobody wants to hear the what a run. What we want to hear, what all of us want to hear, who cover the team, etc., is, look, you said in a pregame meeting before the season to your team, don't be the first Clemson class that doesn't win a championship. After the game, Dabo should have been saying, damn, this is going to be the first Clemson class, 4-year class that didn't go to the playoff, that didn't play for a national championship. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Folks, Clemson is easily one of the 5 most disappointing teams in America. Period. End of story. Thanks for playing. All right? And if you're not mad about it, if Dabo's not mad about it, if you're not mad about it, I don't know what to tell you. If you're not mad about this, you're going to get more. If you're going to settle for this, then you're going to get more. It's a damn disgrace. It's a disgrace, and you could see it coming. Last week, I said, should Clemson be on upset alert? And Clemson fans said to me, there is no opponent that should be considered an upset if they beat Clemson these days. Not a single team that beats Clemson should be considered an upset. Now, in the long run, and from a gratitude standpoint, my feeling is this is going to be a good thing for the Clemson fan base. Why? I think they'd become entitled. They'd become a little bit spoiled by the success. I saw that in the game I went to in the nosebleeds this year, Diesel. 1-score game, 4th quarter, everyone's filing out. Okay, it's Wake Forest. Even though it's a close game, we decided before the game that this game was only going to get a half from us or 3 quarters from us. So even though it's a 1-score game, we out throwing up deuces. See you guys later, right? I'm not just labeling you guys, okay? I'm a Florida fan. Believe me, I was there. I was one of the entitled, spoiled fans. Steve Spurrier left in part because of my mindset, right? 1 year, Florida made the Orange Bowl at 10-2, and the whole vibe around campus was, we're going to the Orange Bowl, man. The Orange Bowl. And Steve Spurrier got tired of it being a national championship or a failure. He got tired of that. So he went to Washington. We were spoiled. We were entitled. Home games, there wasn't a threat of losing. Home games were a party, right? You guys acted the same way last year when South Carolina came in and pulled your pants down. You acted the same way. You're here for a party. Oh, there's no chance we're going to lose. We're here for a party.
This will definitely put the piss and vinegar back in Clemson if they're able to turn this around. And you may need another down season to fully appreciate it. You'll say, "Oh yeah, totally. We appreciate the 10-win seasons, Dabo. Please give us that back again." Being without it for 1 year might not be enough. You may need 2 years. You may need 3 years to fully kick you all the way down a peg or two. I mean, that's what that saying means, right? You got to be taken down a peg or two. And Clemson fans, the fan base, needed to be taken down a peg or two. So we got some interesting messages here on the Fan Upstate YouTube chat. Make sure you jump in over there and hit that subscribe button to subscribe to the Fan Upstate YouTube channel if you haven't already. Man of Tomorrow says, Clemson, what a manure matinee. Clever. Man of Tomorrow also says, you have to show up to quit. Roger Carper, we might lose the next 4 and the first 2 next year. Who in the hell schedules App State as a non-conference game? I've always said a Power 5 is stupid to schedule them. Well, Roger, you must not be paying attention because App State's not very good right now either. App State is a 4-4 football program right now. So in years past, you might have been right about that. Right now, not so much.
And on the text line, Mark, South Carolina, Clemson, and Florida all stunk it up. Yeah, Diesel, I got hit with a tweet over the weekend. You're too negative because I'm covering Clemson, Florida, and South Carolina. Bro, did you turn on your TV today? Did you see what the hell's going on? All right. I'm not the dude that's going to put lipstick on that pig, bro. Okay. And, get your friends to lie to you. That's not me, man. That's not me. It's not what I do. Texter guessed it was Pringles who said you can only eat just one.
No, that's not right.
It was Lay's. Once you pop, you can't stop. So says Cam.
That's the Pringles. That's the Pringles logo or slogan. Once you pop, you can't stop.
Is it true, a texter says, that Carolina has 6 scholarship O-linemen out injured? It is. No excuses to be made for either South Carolina teams, but that's pretty brutal. Hunt GPT says, more Dabo gaslighting from the postgame presser. That is embarrassing. Texter says, Hurricane Jeff says, it sounds like Dabo has lost the fire that it takes to be a continuously successful program. You can hear it in his voice. Who had Clemson going 0-for-2 on that 2-game road trip? And right now, I'm curious, Diesel, I'm curious. Notre Dame's coming to town. We're going to see a sellout in Death Valley?
No.
Or are the fans going to sell out? Are we going to sell out or are the fans going to sell out?
No, it's going to be a grill out in the parking lot. It's going to be a lot of fans will still show up, but they just won't go in.
I'm going to say that the upper deck is going to be half empty. The lower bowl will be filled. The upper deck is going to be half empty. All right? And at this point, frankly, I don't blame Clemson fans for that. I don't blame them. This is your 3rd straight season of underachievement. And don't give me this, we're the champions of the all cupcakes conference BS. It's the 3rd straight year of underachievement.
It sounds like you're leaning towards...
It's a bunch of nonsense. And we're trending toward the territory where, and hear me out, Clemson fans, you're trending to the area where you'd be smart to close your wallets. You'd be smart. Okay? Close your wallets. That's how you enact change. Nobody is saying that Dabo should be fired right now. Nobody's saying that. We're saying enact change. Okay? Because the continuation of issues that we've seen over the last few years are just going to result in a worse and worse record year after year after ever-loving year. All right? If I'm a Clemson fan, I'm selling my Notre Dame ticket. I'm selling my North Carolina ticket. All right? And if I can't do that, I'm letting it sit vacant. I'm going to speak with my absence because I'm not about to be a fan of a team that gets the least out of the most. And that is Clemson right now, getting the least out of the most. It's embarrassing and it's pathetic. Now, why don't all you Gamecock fans go tell Clemson fans what I said and go tell your Gamecock buddies that Mark is more than happy to keep it 100 on both teams. Okay? Would you guys agree I'm doing that right now? Oh, Mark, you kissed Dabo's ass and you're only mean to South Carolina. Did you listen to this first segment? No? Well, maybe you should. All right? Because this is embarrassing. This is absolutely embarrassing. These football teams this year have given us 0 intrigue, drama, suspense, nothing. They've given you nothing. They've given us nothing.
Well, they've given you headaches and ulcers.
Yeah, nothing. Absolutely nothing. And if you told me my team, Florida, Clemson, and South Carolina, were going to play in a round robin tomorrow, I'd take the Gators to win the thing. I would. Sorry. And I don't think the Gators are very good. You saw that on Saturday either. On Saturday as well. All right. Up next, everybody is tackling Clemson from the standpoint of what is. No. You need to look at Clemson from the lens of what should be and taking a look at what led to us being where the program is right now. That, my friends, is next. And this is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark Ryan and Diesel, and we are. It's Offsides. Mark.
Tell Steve Smith in the studio this ain't a basketball school. He can kiss my ass.
The words of Dave Doran, North Carolina State. I never heard Steve Smith's comments. Evidently, he called NC State a basketball school.
Yeah.
These, let's be honest. NC State isn't good enough to be a football or a basketball school.
Right.
They're a nothing school.
They're nobody,
by the way,
really.
Came up with the dumbest hand signal I've ever seen in my life. I'm showing
It's
it.
not even theirs. That's like the NWO thing from wrestling when I was a kid.
Oh, I don't even know that, Diesel. But this stupid Wolfpack thing, what do? You take your middle finger and your ring finger with your index finger and your pinky pointed, and you do this little stupid little thing. Listen, Clemson's not immune from this either. They got students doing like the claw. Come on.
And they got the woohoo.
Yeah, well, I don't mind the woohoo, but the claw can get the hell
Old
out
school
of it.
Clemson fans really hate the woohoo.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Okay.
But something like that, you can't stop it once it's already there.
Yeah.
Like you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, the Wolfpack to me, Diesel, like if I say to you, who is the picture of Power 5 mediocrity? Okay? I would tell you over my lifetime, Minnesota and NC State. Okay? Minnesota and NC State. Who's that for you? The picture of Power 5 mediocrity. Now realize
Purdue.
Mediocre means it's better than like Rutgers. Rutgers is well below mediocre.
Indiana,
Purdue.
Most of the Big Ten that's not Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, and Wisconsin.
Yeah. What is your picture of Power 5 mediocrity?
Honestly, in my lifetime, it's rough to say it. Nebraska.
Yeah, not bad. Minnesota and NC State for me. Will any team besides FSU and Louisville be ranked in the ACC? Well, Texter, why don't we take a look at that? Because we're on the verge of the first college football playoff rankings. Let's see, starting at 25 and moving up and looking for an ACC team and not seeing one. Here's Louisville at number 25. And no, it's Florida State and Louisville. And that is all. That is all. North Carolina's out of the top 25. Duke is out of the top 25. Clemson doesn't have a vote. Diesel, I need somebody smarter than me to make this determination. How long has it been since at this point in the season, neither Clemson or South Carolina even had a vote in the top 25?
You have to go back to the Tommy Bowden era, I'm sure.
Not even a single vote. Here's who has votes. All right, Clemson fans, as if you're not sick enough. And I'm not doing this to spike the football on you. Look, my team doesn't have any votes either. Okay? Toledo has votes, plural. Rutgers has votes. SMU has votes. UNLV has a vote. None for Clemson, none for South Carolina, and dare if I don't say that is completely and totally deserved. I'm in a bad mood today, Diesel. I'm in a bad mood. And I'm tired of this garbage that we've been watching. Like it's getting to the point where, in our house, first year, had first year anniversary. Here's what I ask of my beautiful wife. Please give me Saturday, all right, to do college football. Sunday, I can get away with watching maybe 3 hours of NFL. And then I'm yours the rest of the day. But I need Saturday. And I'm having a tough time finding valid reasons why I still need Saturday. You know what I mean? Like there's no reason to tie up my Saturday with this other garbage anymore. It's garbage. You know, Clemson fans, you've now digested 3 straight years of underachieving. Maybe time to close your wallets. Maybe time to stop going for a little while. Till the first game next year. You know, I always say, hit them where it hurts. That's how you enact change. Texter says, the Oculus, great dude, by the way. He says, Dabo has several phases of a difficult job ahead of him. 4 and 8 is on the table if the team really quits. Then he has to decide what he's going to do staff-wise to get more of a top 5 talent roster. Recruits are watching, time to act. It's not only that, Oculus. It's who's going to piece out of this team because they came to win. They didn't come here for this. Who's gonna leave the roster this offseason? Don't say nobody, because the answer isn't nobody, right? The answer is quite a few. And if, you know, there are certain things in life that should be exit only, okay? Certain things absolutely should be exit only. The transfer portal can't be exit only for your team. Can't be. If the transfer portal is exit only for you, what you get is what's going on with Clemson right now. You got Keon Coleman sucking the last life out of your season, okay, with a touchdown catch in overtime, a wide receiver that could have been yours if the price was right, but it was not. And now Florida State is on its way to the college football playoff, and Clemson is on its way to a historically bad season. This is pathetic. So, you know, and again, I get annoyed with media members who just want to highlight, here's what's going on right now. The offensive guard missed a block on this play. Bro, you are in micro land. It's time to widen the lens. It's time to look macro here. What should be addressed is how Clemson got here. All right? So here's my list of issues by priority. All right, Diesel, you tell me if you agree or disagree, okay? Listed in order of priority of the problem. Number 1, you missed on 2 straight quarterbacks. Number 2, poor staff hires and poor player development. Poor staff hires who then develop players poorly, right? Number 3, falling behind in NIL and the transfer portal era. Number 4, stubborn philosophy. Stubborn philosophy. You know, like, if you want to know, folks, why you are where you are, in my opinion, it's those 4 things.
I would move stubborn philosophy to number 1 because stubborn philosophy qualifies every single thing after that. A stubborn philosophy is, I know best, don't question me. Stubborn philosophy is, I want to hire guys from inside to keep the family atmosphere as family as we can get it. Stubborn philosophy is, I know better about the transfer portal. I know better about NIL. I'm going to publicly make statements that I dislike it when we know, because you and I had a conversation with a high school athlete last week who said NIL was going to be a big part of his decision. Then you start losing out on guys. They won't even consider you. You know, you just kind of get shuffled back in their priority list. You can send them stuff all you want to, but they know that Florida State is a place where I can make my money, and I have a coaching staff that appreciates what it is that I value. It doesn't matter what fans want players to value. They don't value what you value. You're a 50-year-old dude who watches the games on TV. You're talking about what an 18-year-old kid, many of whom come from very economically challenged backgrounds, you're trying to tell them what they should value. Shut the hell up. You know? So I think Dabo's backwards, antiquated philosophy has a lot to do with all of the reasons why this program is falling apart.
Again, guys, I mean, is this show Offsides with Mark Ryan and Diesel? Would you say that this show is kissing up to Clemson, as the haters like to say? Does it sound like we're kissing up to Clemson? You know, I've called the season a total embarrassment. No team, no coach is getting less out of more. Diesel just told Dabo to shut the hell up. I think. So you tell me. I mean, are we kissing Clemson's ass? Does it sound like we're kicking Clemson's ass? Or does it sound like what we've always told you about this show? That if the roles were reversed and Clemson sucked and South Carolina was great, it would be Clemson fans who are getting annoyed. All you do is talk bad about our team. No, man, we keep it 100. We're the only show in the upstate, in my opinion, that is not afraid of upsetting anybody. We're not afraid of upsetting anybody. The only show anywhere. All right? Because Odyssey signs my paychecks. Not Clemson, not South Carolina, Odyssey. We are not afraid at all. What do you guys think? My list of issues. People fought back at me about that. No, Mark, they didn't miss on 2 straight quarterbacks. These are top 10 players. They didn't develop them. And I said, well, that's number 2 on the list. Development ties into number 1. But Diesel, I don't see NFL in either Cade or DJ. And, unless you got Georgia's roster, you're not winning the national championship with Stetson Bennett. You know what I'm saying? Unless you have Georgia's roster, you need a guy that has NFL prospects to be your quarterback.
God, you better hope like hell that Christopher Vezina develops quickly. Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, because Cade Klubnik sure as hell isn't.
Looking brutal, if I may. Looking absolutely brutal.
I mean, I don't know if we're doing truth serum this week, but I may have to put on mine that Cade Klubnik transfers out of Clemson before his junior year.
Wow. Oh, man.
I think he may get one more year just because Christopher Vezina is still so young. And according to Don Munson, when we talked to him about this a few weeks ago, he said Vezina's not even close. But then again, that's a scary thing also. How many times have we seen true freshmen, the really elite ones, come in and light it up as freshmen? I mean, they may be a little rough around the edges here and there, but they light it up. They have it. Now, if he's saying that Christopher Vezina is not even close, to me, that says that's a guy who doesn't have it.
Sure. Texter says South Carolina has to be listed as a mediocre team. That's fair. Mediocre program. That's what they've been. Texter says Gorilla Glue needs to invent a sexy glove and sponsor Clemson through NIL. Texter says that is the most random text we ever got. I don't know what y'all are thinking about. Clemson has an NIL department, LOL. But we had Don Munson on this show tell us that Clemson is not going to get in bidding wars.
Yes.
Well, maybe you have to.
You have the department, but their philosophy is not the philosophy of programs that are getting great players in the transfer portal.
Texter says, Mark's such a Gamecock homer. Sincerely, Mongo. Sincerely, Mongo. You made me laugh, Mongo. Mongo, please do me a favor, Mongo. When Diesel posts this segment on the Fan Upstate.
Bongo, I can't remember his name.
You can take out that part, Mongo. When Diesel posts this segment, please post it and tag your Gamecock buddies and just let them know what happened. Okay? Let them know what happened. That Clemson themselves got paddled on offsides with Mark Ryan and Diesel. Texter says, Mark, completely agree with y'all about Clemson being an utter embarrassment. I'm a fan of Clemson, and this season makes me not look forward to Saturday. How bad is this Clemson season? I'm looking forward to Sunday. I mean, come on, man.
Daddy O on the YouTube chat says the things Dabo is complaining about destroying college football are simultaneously destroying his brand in real time.
That's brilliant. Yeah, Daddy O, that's radio worthy. Please don't come after our job, Daddy O. That was really good. Texter says, Mark, Georgia can't beat Ohio State or Michigan. Georgia has played absolutely nobody, and that's exactly why they won't be number 1 on Tuesday night. It's irrelevant, No,
they beat the tar out of nobody on Saturday.
Yeah, thanks, Diesel, and thanks, Texter. Appreciate that.
It turns you into boots.
Yeah, listen, I am not so sure that the Big Ten is going to even have a single member of the college football playoff. And when Diesel and I get to our college football playoff 4 today, we'll see if I have even a single member of the Big Ten making the college football playoff this year. Texter says, you guys tell it like it is, and I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Texter. You're one of the few, the proud, and we appreciate you greatly. Texter says, Mark, I'm a Clemson fan and didn't watch it, but I did watch the Ducks. Why would you go to Clemson, Notre Dame? Why would you go? You got LSU, Alabama, you got other games that are on of interest over the weekend. I don't know, guys. Sometimes I'm a huge believer in tough love, right? I stopped going to Florida games when they had Will Muschamp. I stopped going. I wanted my athletic department to feel the pain in the wallet. I wanted them to see what the difference is financially between a winning team and a losing team, between a good head coach and a bad head coach. I wanted them to feel that, okay? And it's because it's tough love. It doesn't mean I don't care. Of course I care. But, this is the third straight year of underachievement for Clemson. And frankly, Diesel, I'm beginning to wonder if I'm the bad luck charm. Right before I came here, Clemson had the best season ever. My first show here was January 14th, 2019. Clemson won the national championship on January 2nd that year. First year here, made it to the national championship game, lost. Second year here, made it to the college football playoff, lost. Third year here, no college football playoff. Fourth year here, no college football playoff. Fifth football season here, no college football playoff. Am I the bad luck charm for you guys? Is that where we're at? This is brutal, guys. It's brutal. The texter says, you want a hot take? Bama wins out, beats Georgia, and wins the national championship. But do you actually believe that, Mongo? Do you actually believe that? Texter says, I'm a Gamecock fan, and we deserve every bit of criticism you've given to us. Do you Gamecock fans hear that? Listen to this guy again. Texter says, I'm a Gamecock fan, and we deserve every bit of criticism you've given to us. Texter, say it a little bit louder for the folks in the back. Say it a little bit louder for the folks in the back. Thank you very much. Texter says, Palmetto Bowl is going to be on PBS. Texter says, I absolutely believe it. Texter says, Mark, you are absolutely not a bad luck charm for being honest. You're absolutely not a bad luck charm for being honest. No way, no how. No way, no how. Okay, let's get to JD, who's up next on the show. Hey, JD, thanks for the call. You're Offsides.
Hey, thanks, guys. I was listening to the post-game presser with Dabo, and he said something that just absolutely dumbfounded me. He said, this loss was bizarre. He said, it's the only way I can explain it. It was bizarre. He said, it's on me. I take total responsibility. But all I can say was that it was bizarre. And then he went on to say, well, you figure if you hold a team to a little over 200 yards total offense, 3 first downs, that you would win the game. And he shrugged his shoulders and he goes, I don't know. It's bizarre. Even the simplest of minds can figure out that if your defense does that, then something is incredibly wrong with your offense if they can't win a game like that. It was absolutely dumbfounding to me that was his answer as to the problems in that game on Saturday.
Now, JD, let's do a little creativity exercise, me, you, and Diesel here, okay? So the word this week was bizarre. How bizarre? How bizarre. What is the word going to be next week? Okay? What's it going to be next week? JD, Diesel, yours truly. There's going to be an adjective that is used. We know the word is not going to be critical of his team, even though it should be. We know the word is not going to be critical of him or his staff, even though it should be. What is the word going to be next week? What do you think, JD?
Honestly, hard telling, because everything about how he has responded to every loss this year has been unexplainable. Maybe unexplainable. There you go. There's your word. I don't know. We lost today. It's just unexplainable. That's the way the whole season's been, and that seems to be his out. It's bizarre. It's unexplainable. and he won't step back and say, we have some major fundamental problems and issues in this program.
Thank you for the call, JD. Texter says, Mark, at this point, Clemson fans are going to the game just to see Notre Dame. ND. I say, guys, the word is going to be clueless. I'm clueless as how we lost 31-13 to Notre Dame. I'm clueless. No explanation for how that happened. All right, we got Jim Szoke celebrating a win. Oh, my gosh, that's amazing. Next, here on Offsides, we are the Fan Upstate. Watched in its entirety all year. Mark, are you admitting delinquency on the air? No, man. Look, I'm just telling you, that kept my interest from beginning to end. The passion was there. The defensive game planning was there. And darn if Bryce Young didn't look the better of the two QBs in the matchup. Joining us right now is Jim Szoke here on the show today on the Carolina Panthers network. Jim, hallelujah. That was incredible to see. What were your big takeaways?
Yeah, no, it's, I thought you're right about, I heard you said about Bryce Young. I think he's gotten, as we've kind of talked about in the past, I think he's gotten a little bit more comfortable with what he's doing every week. And yesterday he was sacked 6 times, and a lot of other times he was scrambling back there, creating time and space and being creative in how he got rid of the football just to make plays that, a lot of quarterbacks probably couldn't make if they were pocket passers. So I thought he played well, and I wasn't so concerned about the comparison to CJ Stroud, but he played better than CJ on that day. And I think, again, just kind of reaffirmed the fact that, Bryce Young is maturing at, really, I think, not like breakneck speed, but just a little bit more every week where you can see why they took him at number 1.
Jim, I got a text from my Carolina Kickoff pregame show co-host, Diddy, on that last drive, and he said, Bryce Young is willing this team to win. Talk about just how special what he was able to do there on that final drive to get down into field goal range was. It's not like we've seen him be able to string together multiple plays in a row for very many sustained drives in this season. What did you see on that last drive that was so special to you?
No, it was very special because it's 15 plays. You got to score. They convert 4th down twice, and they get down in the field goal range. And not only that, but then with the penalty, get into very chip shot field goal range. And just, again, a lot of composure there. We see the leadership stuff that's been there since the day that they draft him, as far as how he carries himself, how the veterans on the team view him as soon as he got into the locker room there. So he's a humble, somewhat soft-spoken guy. But, I mean, he's played in big games in college not that long ago at Alabama. So it's not the same as the pros. But that's a good rehearsal when you're in the SEC playing at a high level like that to come into the pros. And he didn't at any time look like, he was scattered, didn't know what he was doing, was uncomfortable. And again, with a new play caller for the first time, and Thomas Brown having to do all this on the fly, the clock management for Frank Reich, all that stuff came together really well.
Jim, I'm looking at the remainder of this schedule here, and darn if things aren't just looking up suddenly. I mean, the Colts are up this Sunday, then the Bears, okay? Also on the schedule, the Titans, the Bucks twice, the Saints, the Falcons, the Packers. Of the 10 games remaining, I would say 8 are winnable, Dallas and at Jacksonville being the exception. So how does Carolina make this blip become a trend?
I think it's just a matter of doing things consistently, because even though they won, it came down to a field goal on the last play of the game, 15-13. I mentioned the 6 quarterback sacks. It was Austin Corbett's first game back. So they had very little running yesterday. So the offensive line's got to step up. So as far as sustaining what you're talking about, I think offensive line as a unit has to improve collectively. That'll help Bryce in the pocket. It'll help the running game. So if they can do that, that would be terrific. And days like yesterday, if they can play, defense at that level. I mean, they don't have J.C. Horn, they don't have Von Bell, but these are guys that are coming back. At some point, Jeremy Chin will be back and some others. So I think it's a good sign that they've been able to, put out 13 points yesterday defensively against a really good quarterback, obviously, in CJ Stroud, hold him to 140 yards. and they're going to hopefully get very soon some of these big cogs back in the defensive secondary.
Jim Szoke, the color analyst of the Panthers game day broadcast. The Panthers got back multiple important pieces on the offensive line yesterday. Just talking about how huge that was and what you saw out of those guys in their return.
Yeah, I mean, the interior offensive line obviously losing both Austin Corbett, which they knew going in since he got hurt at the end of last season, but then Brady Christensen, it's been a problem spot for them. And so now, Corbett back. I'm sure he was not at 100% there. And then with Throckmorton and some other guys, they've got some options in there at the other guard positions. They're kind of mixing and matching to find the right guy. They had Chandler Zavala in there obviously earlier this year and some other players. So that helps out a lot. It's been interesting to see Ike Ekwonu, who's not been as good as he was last year as a rookie, the first-round pick out of NC State. And I'm not entirely sure what that is. Obviously, the chemistry of the offensive line probably has something to do with it. But, we just, last year was a little bit different. They were more of a downhill running team. But, in every game you have pass protection, pass pro, things like that going on. And I'm not really sure entirely what's going on that he's not been, taking a step up, if anything, a little bit of a step back this year in terms of how he's performed on the field.
Carolina is going to have to put some points on the board to make this a winning streak as one of the highest scoring offenses in the league, Indianapolis, comes to town next weekend. Jim, on offense, you just touched on one of them. Where are some other areas of improvement to show on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I think, obviously sustained running game. I like Chuba Hubbard. I mean, the way he plays, he didn't do much in terms of stats, 28 yards, but he was so clutch on that last drive and making sure he picked up that fourth down. So I like what Chuba's doing. Miles Sanders has been a little bit of a curious player because he needs to step up his game. You always need more than one running back. And he played well the first game of the season against Atlanta, and then he's either not played much or not played well or been injured ever since then. And yesterday he was only on the field for 18% of the snaps. So they need a lot more, I think, out of Miles Sanders. I think that was kind of like their big free agent signing this past offseason coming aboard from Philadelphia. So that would help. And then somebody besides Adam Thielen in the pass game. Hayden Hurst has barely been noticeable as the tight end signee. Chark dropped one yesterday. I thought Jonathan Mingo had a nice day. He did drop one pass, but other than that, thought he played well. But definitely could use just some more consistent weapons that are not named Adam Thielen as far as having consistency moving forward. Again, he's not like making big down the field plays, but at some point teams are going to start trying to take him away more to some degree just because that's where you're going all the time.
Jim Szoke, color analyst, Carolina Panthers, celebrating a win. It was so great to see. Jim, I cover Clemson, Florida, and South Carolina, and I did not expect the Panthers.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Did not expect the Panthers to give me my feel good, but I'm so glad they did, and I thought of you yesterday, my friend, and was happy for you and the crew. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Mark.
You got it. All right, take care. Jim Szoke on the Carolina Panthers broadcast. Coming up next, it's your turn, South Carolina. Come get your whooping. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. What's good, my friends? Not Gamecock football. This is the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, rolling on until 7 o'clock p.m. today. Thanks so much for making us part of your day each and every day. Guys, why do we do things the way that we do? Why are we so, why are we the show that says the things that people think but don't normally say, right? We do that. There's a strategy behind it. And the answer is that in the long term, we think we win. Number one, it's what we want to do. We want to be the blunt, in-your-face, truth-telling sports show. And we believe that long-term, that formula wins. Before I moved here in 2019, I studied the marketplace. And I'm like, okay, you got the Clemson Homer station. You don't have a Gamecock station per se. At our station group at the time carried Clemson, but they weren't on our specific station, and so I said, well, this is pretty easy. Like we're beholden to nobody. We don't have to kiss anyone's ass. This is me. This is a fit. This is great. This is awesome. And, it goes back to one of my favorite lines. You can tell me what it is, Diesel. What's the movie and what's the line that has to do with not caring if your audience is upset versus they love you? Okay.
Howard Stern's Private Parts. When the program director, affectionately known as Pig Vomit, is in his boss's office studying the ratings, and he says, people who like Howard Stern listen for 1 hour a day. Well, why do they listen? Most common answer, I want to see what he'll say next. People who dislike Howard Stern listen for 1 hour and 42 minutes a day. Well, if they hate him, why do they listen? Most common answer, I want to see what he'll say next.
That's it. That's the philosophy, guys. That's a philosophy. So we understand, right? We understand that along those lines, there can be people, listeners, etc., affiliated with the show coming in and out, right? But we feel like in the long run, we win.
I was just hanging out with one of those people over the weekend. Brad Perkle, listener of the show.
Yeah.
Just joined into the contest in the Upset Picks Challenge. A year ago, he wouldn't listen to the show. He's a diehard Gamecock fan through and through. All he had heard is what he had heard other people say and things that the little viral clips from here and there on social media. And he's like, I hate that guy. I don't like what he has to say. I don't like that guy. I don't want to listen to his show. And I would say, I've known him for 15 years, and I would send him links and say, hey, man, you got to check this out. You got to listen to the show. Coming up on this segment, here's what we're going to talk about. No, I don't know. I don't want to listen to that guy. I don't like that guy. And then finally one day, after I'd basically given up on him, he goes, I'm listening to the show. This guy makes some good points. And then I talked to him yesterday. I was like, he might have said the 4-letter word and Mark Ryan in conjunction 3 times on Saturday. But then he said, I'll be listening on Monday because he you know what? He makes a good point sometimes.
Well, Brad, we're glad to have you, and we hope we perkled you up. Okay, we hope we perkled you up. Thank you so much for being Diesel's friend and for tuning in. So let's get.
Thank you for being friend.
Let's get to the Gamecocks and Gamecocks. Step up for your whipping. Step up for your whipping. It's time. It's time for that whipping. It's going to leave a mark, and it's not going to be pretty. Guys, look, I stuck my neck out for you guys. I picked you. Because I thought you would show, and I thought you would against a very mediocre A&M team. I thought you would show out a little bit. Season's on the line. No, not so much. The first third of the game was good. I was feeling high on the horse. I made sure that I got my smack talking out in the first third of the game, because I didn't know how long that would last, and it didn't last very long. I picked South Carolina to win this game in July, and for much of the first half, it appeared prophetic, but prophetic became pathetic real fast on Saturday. I will say this on behalf of the Gamecocks. Unlike Clemson, there is no quit in South Carolina. Clemson is quitting, okay? By the way, in the very next segment of the show, Diesel and I are going to tackle what Clemson's record would be playing South Carolina's schedule and what South Carolina's schedule would be playing Clemson's schedule. I've got something on this that's really going to surprise you, okay? That's coming up in the next segment. But all told, folks, when you have an offense that has no offensive line, or an offensive line that's as offensive as South Carolina's offensive line, you can't get off the starting block. You don't pass go. You don't collect $200. You can't do it, right? That offensive line is so offensive, it short circuits everything you want to do. A quarterback, Spencer Rattler, without an offensive line, is a car without an engine. And if you're a Gamecock fans, you knew this on game number 1, at game number 1 against North Carolina. You knew this, all right? Early in the game, I thought South Carolina was flying to the football. They were playing with a ton of passion and pride, right? Beamer tends to rally the troops well. But you know where we are right now, folks? Where we are is a situation where it's okay to acknowledge this. Beamer has failed miserably at roster construction. This roster should not have one of the worst line situations, offensively and defensively, in year 3 of his tenure. This is a team that has SEC talent and group of 5 offensive and defensive lines. And they get bullied and bruised and abused. And poor Rattler, he must be setting a national record for the number of intentional grounding calls he has this year, Diesel, because he'll be sitting back to pass. Next thing he knows, someone in his face, and he tries to throw it away, but he's in the pocket.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler would be a Heisman contender if he had a decent offensive line.
Yeah, he would. And he's done all that he can do. And he's no longer 100%. He's getting beaten up every single game. And the thing that I don't fully understand from Gamecock fans is, what is Beamer responsible for? You guys don't want to hold him accountable for anything. I think Gamecock fans are in the excuse-making mode because they like him, and they like him because he chose you, and he continues to choose you, right? And as much as Gamecock fans have been kicked in their lives, you value loyalty. I get that. I understand. He's all about being a Gamecock. He's prideful about it. He's passionate. He goes after people who criticize South Carolina. I've taken that on the chin personally. All right? I get why you like him, but there's no need. You guys are doing this thing where you make excuses for the kid that you like the best. You got multiple kids. One kid gets straight A's on his report card, but he just punched a kid at school. Well, the other kid must have instigated it because my kid's a great kid. You make excuses for people that you like, for people that you love, right? That's what you do. But you like Beamer. All I'm hearing are excuses. Guys, this roster is his fault. It's his fault. Cut the crap. All right? This is a joke. 2-6. Do you realize, Diesel, we came out with this graphic last week. I'm not sure if you were out the day that we shared it, Diesel, or what. But now the combined record of Clemson and South Carolina this year, okay, the combined record is a sterling 6 wins and 10 losses. Okay, 6 wins and 10 losses. That winning percentage, all right, would now rank, wait for it, 4th worst in the last 100 years if it holds up.
Ouch.
Combined between Clemson and South Carolina. All right. Last year, they were 18-6, a winning percentage of 750. This year, they have a winning percentage exactly half of that, 375. All right. Worst combined records ever. 1970, Clemson and South Carolina were 7-14, a winning percentage of 333. 1942, Clemson and South Carolina combined a record of 4-13, a winning percentage of 235. And the worst all-time combined Clemson and South Carolina seasons, 1998, a combined record of 4 wins and 18 losses and a winning percentage of 182. This is the 4th worst combined record of the last 100 years.
So Mongo on our YouTube stream says we haven't had that since Morrison. It feels good to have a coach that gives a damn. Mongo, at what point do wins and losses matter to you? Like to you personally. I'm not talking about the fan base. At what point do wins and losses matter to you? Because eventually it does. And I think that's a problem. That's why a lot of, now I'm going to break this thing up out and give you the 10,000 foot view. I think a lot of Gamecock fans share that sentiment. They share that mentality. They've got a passionate coach. And I'm not ever going to tell you that having a passionate coach is a bad thing. But your job, what you're paid to do, is to win football games. And like eventually you got to say, maybe this rah-rah BS is just that. It's just BS because that's all it is when you can't win. It's just window dressing. It's fluff. Eventually, you got to say wins and losses have to start mattering. So come on, Mongo. Like, I know it feels good to have somebody put on a garnet hat and get all fiery and passionate. But come on, man, damn. He's worse than the guy you ran out of town on a rail that you guys flipping hate. You guys hate Muschamp. And Shane Beamer, wins and loss record is worse than Will Muschamp.
Here you go.
And
guys.
you're still defending him. What the hell?
Muschamp through 34 games was 20-14. Beamer through 34 games is 17-17. All right? Yeah, but you like one and you didn't like the other. Guys, you know, it's called a business decision. No one's saying Beamer should be fired now, just like no one's saying Dabo should be fired now. But at some point, if you got an employee that you love, but he's not producing, you got to make a business decision.
Let me remind you that you really liked the other. You really liked Will Muschamp until he started losing. And then you turned on him. You really liked Shane Beamer. Well, now he's losing. At what point are you going to turn on him? This is the exact same scenario all over again. Except Shane Beamer is at times a more likable personality than Will Muschamp.
And Shane Beamer, for his own credit, says that, look, I'm proud of the fight my team showed.
We talk about staying in the fight, meaning just continuing to battle and stay in the fight. And our guys stayed in the freaking fight today. All we said was just get this thing to the fourth quarter and let's find a way to win it. And we got it to the fourth quarter. It was a one-score game after the touchdown, and we just couldn't quite get over the hump. That's disappointing, starting with me.
But don't you want to be a fan of a team who doesn't need to, quote, get it to the fourth quarter against mediocre Texas A&M? How about by the time the fourth quarter rolls around, it's A&M's goal to get it to the fourth quarter? You know, like Beamer's showing you, all we say is get it to the fourth quarter. You know, like he's starting to have, Diesel, the Gamecock level of expectation, which is half their problem. Oh, we can't fire Muschamp. He's got more wins, 23, through the first 3 seasons. That's less than 8 wins a year than any other coach has ever had. Can't fire him. What we want to do is be in the game in the fourth quarter. Is the goal the same this week against Jacksonville State? We always say, stay in the fight. Make sure you're in the game at home against Jacksonville State in the fourth quarter. Come on, Beamer. Come on. You know, ultimately, what you expect of your program is what your program will be.
Jacksonville State's 7-2 right now. 7-2. So some of y'all are chalking this up as a win. I'm not so sure.
No,
I'm not so sure. I'm not going to go as far as to predict a Jacksonville State win, because you should, even with your mediocre ass talent, be more talented than Jacksonville State in their first years in FBS school.
Coming up next, what would Clemson's record be playing South Carolina's schedule and vice versa? That's next on Offsides. We're the show that gives you both sides. Right here on the Fan Upstate. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel. We are the Fan Upstate. We've got Chris Phillips joining us in the next segment of the show today. So, guys, a fun little exercise for you guys right now, okay? If Clemson had played South Carolina's schedule this season, knowing now what we wish we knew then, right? What would the record be? And if South Carolina played Clemson's schedule this year, knowing now what we wish we did then, what would the record be? What would the record be? All right, folks. So here you go. Let us tackle Clemson first with South Carolina playing the schedule. Now, let's remind you that Clemson now sits at 4-4, staring a losing record right in the face. Right in the face. Notre Dame, a suddenly vastly improved Georgia Tech, Diesel. You know, if you can almost lose to Wake Forest, you can lose to Georgia Tech. There's not a gimme win for Clemson left on the schedule. Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, and at South Carolina. 3 out of the 4 games are at home. 4 out of 4 remaining games for the Gamecocks are at home. So, Diesel, let's go through this together, okay? South Carolina opens the season at Duke. Loss. I agree. South Carolina hosts Charleston Southern.
Win.
South Carolina hosts FAU.
Win.
2-1. We agree. South Carolina hosts Florida State.
Loss.
I agree. So we're at 2-2. I wonder if we're going to have the same record. South Carolina at Syracuse, Diesel, win or loss?
Loss.
I said win. South Carolina hosting Wake Forest, win or loss?
Win.
I said win. South Carolina at Miami.
Loss.
South Carolina at NC State.
Loss.
I said win. So you had the
whoa. There's something that South Carolina showed you something that says they would beat NC State.
Yeah. Their effort against A&M, Diesel. A&M's way better than NC State. Way better. Like leagues better. Okay, like no joke, way better. So, I mean, I think South Carolina would be good enough to win road games against all Cupcakes Conference mediocre patsies. I do. So Diesel would have South Carolina 3-5 and 1 game worse than Clemson. I'd have South Carolina 5-3 and 1 game better than Clemson. Huh. How about that?
Okay. So Syracuse is 4-4 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to flip my decision on Syracuse.
Okay. So you have South Carolina then as the same record as Clemson with Clemson's schedule.
Yeah.
And I have South Carolina 1 game better with Clemson's schedule. Now, I see you, Clemson fans. You got your pitchforks out in my direction. You're saying there's no way in hell. Well, no. South Carolina is an SEC team that almost beat Florida, and NC State and Syracuse are not that. Okay? They're not that. I'm sorry. So I've got South Carolina going 1 game better than Clemson on Clemson's schedule, 5-3. How about Clemson playing South Carolina's schedule? And you're thinking, if you're a Clemson fan, that you're going to need to brace yourself for this, but just wait. Just wait. Let's figure this out together. All right. Clemson versus North Carolina, Diesel, win or loss?
South Carolina versus North Carolina, you mean?
Clemson versus North Carolina.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Clemson, that's a loss.
That's a loss. That's absolutely a loss.
Especially the way North Carolina was playing at the time.
Yep. Clemson versus Furman.
Win.
Yes, we're 1-1. Clemson at Georgia.
Loss.
Remember, South Carolina had a 14-3 lead in that.
That's not just a loss. That's a body bag game.
Yeah, it is. So loss as well. Clemson hosting Mississippi State.
Ooh. What's Mississippi State's record right now?
Not great, Diesel. They're like second worst in.
I think Clemson would
at home.
At home, they'd beat Mississippi State.
I agree.
They're 4-4 overall.
So there we go. So now I've got 2-2 for Clemson playing South Carolina schedule. Here we go, Diesel. All right. Clemson at Tennessee.
Whew. Loss.
Loss.
Bad.
Bad, right? That's 2-3. Now, I'm going to say Clemson versus Florida. Florida comes to Clemson.
Ooh, Florida is, God, they look inept at times. They look good at times. They look inept at times. That's a toss-up game, if you ask me. But I'm going to say that's a loss.
I said it's a win for Clemson. Okay? So at Missouri,
That's a loss.
And at A&M.
That's a loss.
That's a loss. Okay? So you have Clemson against South Carolina's schedule with exactly South Carolina's record, okay, of 2-6. I have Clemson as being 3-5 against South Carolina's schedule. So lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, I have the Gamecocks as being one game better than they are playing Clemson's schedule. And I have Clemson being one game better than they are. I'm sorry. I have South Carolina being one game better than Clemson against Clemson's schedule. Clemson's 4-4. I have the Gamecocks 5-3. Playing the Gamecocks schedule, South Carolina is 2-6. I think Clemson would be 3-5. And maybe if Florida plays again at South Carolina, that game's a loss. You would make a good point if you said that should have been a Florida loss. Gamecocks should have beaten the Gators. I think at Clemson, Florida doesn't win at Clemson.
Look at Mongo suggesting things in the chat that I suggested years ago on the station and got absolutely blasted for. It says, send us to the ACC right now. Mongo, I remember getting run out of town for that comment, for saying South Carolina should leave and rejoin the ACC. You guys ripped me apart for that. And now you're saying it. Interesting.
Texter says the Clemson versus South Carolina Palmetto Bowl will be at 8 a.m. on the Cartoon Network. Texter says, in Dabo's defense, there should be nothing in Dabo's defense at this point. Texter, you lost me after that. Here's what the rest of your text says, though. I can see it being hard to explain when you're so used to winning. For it starts up front, and our O-line is low D1. Texter says, Mark, bring on the whipping for my Gamecocks. I'm used to it now, so says Spur Daddy. Texter says, Mark, don't let Florida off the hook. They should get a shot, too. So says JT and Greer. The top 5 at 5 is for that, JT. Texter says, the strength and conditioning needs to be looked into. The amount of injuries this season has been ridiculous. Mark, here come the excuses from the Beamer stands. Mark, how many full recruiting classes has Beamer had? I'm going to agree with you when Beamer was hired. You said you can't hire this guy for just 3 or 4 years. He deserves 5 full seasons. If after year 5 it looks similar today, then Beamer has to go. As for Will Muschamp, this will be the last year we have to compare Beamer to his record-wise because we know Will Muschamp the last 2 years was terrible. Yeah, but Will Muschamp's now 3 games up on Beamer. 3. But, Mark, doesn't the Sorry Excuses Conference, SEC, have a losing record to the ACC this year? So what? So what? You know, not a single NFL draft analyst would tell you the ACC is better. Clemson against South Carolina this year, Mark, is just going to be all of us crying together in the stands. Winner goes to the Scrubbing Bubbles Toilet Bowl, Diesel. Loser has the longest offseason of their life.
Oh.
Of their life. Starring on Comedy Central, Clemson versus South Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Phillips joining us next. Right here. The fan upstate, I've been looking forward to this chat. South Carolina is 2-6. Chris Phillips join us. Chris, We did the whole if both Clemson and South Carolina played the other's schedule, what would the record be? I think the Gamecocks would actually be 5-3 against Clemson's schedule. The game that they would win that Clemson lost was the one that was just played on Saturday at NC State. And then I also have, I think Clemson would be 3-5 against South Carolina's schedule. I think they'd be one game better. I think the game Clemson would win that South Carolina didn't is hosting Florida. You know, I know Florida like the back of my hand. I don't see Florida winning at Clemson. What do you say, man? If you thought about that this year with how awful this has been, a combined 6-10, fourth worst combined record for these two teams in the last century.
Well, Mark and Diesel, first things first, appreciate you guys having me on. You know, it's a great question, Mark. And it's tough to say because South Carolina's losers of 4 straight, and they lost 3 of those 4 by double digits. So I'm really hesitant to say that one's a win, that one's a win. You know, the schedule's so much easier. You know, I'd probably say South Carolina's a game or 2 better. I think they could have probably won at NC State, like you mentioned. I mean, I don't know, though. I mean, I have to pull up Clemson's schedule and go game by game, but it's with the issues that South Carolina has right now. I mean, you could put a Conference USA schedule in front of them, Mark, and I don't know how confident I'd be that they'd go undefeated or even, you know, win 9 or 10 games. So it's one of those things, man. Coming into Jacksonville State week, you're losers of 4 straight. You're taking nothing for granted, right? I mean, before the season, we chalked this up as an easy W, and certainly it should be that as the Gamecocks are more than a 2-touchdown favorite. But at this point, you take nothing for granted, and South Carolina's got to show up Saturday and play a really good football game and get back to winning ways in convincing fashion, I think.
So let's do this, Chris. One word from you, if you can. South Carolina opens with Duke, loss. What do you say?
Loss
Okay.
To that Duke team.
Okay, Charleston Southern, win.
Win.
Florida Atlantic, win.
Win.
Florida State, loss.
Loss, yeah.
At Syracuse, I say win.
I'll go win also. Very close game, but a win.
Wake Forest at home, I say win.
Win, yeah.
Miami on the road, I say loss.
Loss as well.
And NC State was the coin flip. I said win for the Gamecocks. Clemson was so bad Saturday, dude. And the other thing is, let's accept the fact that A&M talent-wise is leagues better than NC State, right? Leagues better. And those games look similar in how they played out.
Yeah, I mean, Mark, I don't think Texas A&M, I left that game, I don't think they were a great team. That's what was so frustrating watching that game is, you know, to your point, they've got 4- and 5-star talent littered all over the field. We obviously know how Jimbo and company have recruited. That's why his seat is so hot, right? Because they have not lived up to those recruiting billings and played at the level we all expected. But, I mean, that Texas A&M team, man, they've got tons of talent in the front 7 defensively, but offensively, they're extremely boring. Their offensive line plays like it hates Jimbo Fisher for whatever reason. Gamecocks came into that game on Saturday, 13 total sacks in the season. They got 3 sacks on 1 drive on Max Johnson. Granted, Texas A&M shored things up after that, but that was a really gettable game. That was a really beatable team, and I think an average or slightly above average football team could have won that game. But unfortunately, Mark, as you've seen, the Gamecocks just aren't that this year, and it just seems like every single time they have an opportunity to really grasp momentum and make a game-changing play or have a game-changing drive, they shoot themselves in the foot, as was evidence. And I think you pointed this out on social media, the 4th down and short to go, and you snap the ball at Spencer Rattler's feet, and it blows up. And, you know, Mark, that was probably the most upset I've been at any point this season because it felt like one of those breaking points, right, where you're just clinging for dear life and keeping out hope that maybe South Carolina can do something crazy, steal that football game. And it makes such an egregious error that was self-inflicted. It really encapsulated the struggles and frustration of this season.
Chris Phillips joins us here on the show. Shane Beamer's recruiting slightly better. Will Muschamp's record thus far slightly better. Yet Shane still holds on to the hearts of many Gamecock fans. In your mind, Chris, what has to happen for him to lose some of the support no matter the results crowd? Is it simply wins and losses? Is it losing out on key recruits? Is it maybe another black eye or a black and blue toe? Like, what does it take for those people who are holding on to let go?
Yeah, Deez. I mean, you know this, though, as well as I do, that for college fan bases, and especially those as passionate as South Carolina, nobody wants to jump the gun and be the fire the coach guy. Like your guy is your guy until he isn't, right? And there's a lot of the fan base that will hold out into the very last second because the other side of that coin is really dark and really grim, and many folks are really uncomfortable with venturing to that side of things. And I've been the fire the coach guy, guys, you're all familiar with. It wasn't the most pleasurable experience. It wasn't fun, but it was what needed to be said and what needed to be done. I mean, I think simply put, it does come down to wins and losses, guys. And I think as the losses were to pile up, I think you're going to see more and more and more the fan base start to have questions. You know, I think if South Carolina gets to year 5 and the results are still 5-7, 6-6, and it looks similar to what we're seeing now, I think a lot of people will jump ship at that point. I think people just, you know, especially after last year, guys, I mean, I think the goodwill that he still built up from beating Tennessee and, yes, beating Clemson, I think that wins you a lot of favor in this state, especially if you can do that again this year. You know, that will continue to, hey, it was a bad season, but it keeps you somewhat in the good graces of Gamecock Nation. But, I mean, I think it really comes down to wins and losses, guys. Obviously, if you see recruiting start to slip, and I think, guys, I tell you this, I think this transfer portal cycle is going to go a long way and how a lot of Gamecock Nation feels about Shane Beamer, just from the sense of we all know to win and win big in this day and age, you have to succeed in the transfer portal, especially at a school like South Carolina. And if for whatever reason we see a mass exodus at the Gamecocks like we saw last year when you lost Jaheim Bell, Marshawn Lloyd, Jordan Burch, et cetera, if you see some key contributors leave off this year's team, again, the questions, the whispers are going to turn into roars about what's going on, what is wrong. And again, I think that you're just going to hear that energy get louder and louder and louder. And then, guys, obviously, again, I've said this many times, it doesn't matter how much goodwill you built up off the field or your culture or whatever. No coach is immune to the effects of losing and significant losing. So, you know, if you finish 5-7 or worse and miss a bowl game, guys, I don't think the majority of Gamecock Nation's obviously going to be saying fire Shane Beamer, nor do I think they should be doing that. But it's going to put a lot of pressure on Beamer going into 2024 to show some real marketed improvement.
Chris, my takeaway from Saturday was that Shane Beamer has failed at roster building. Agree or disagree?
110% agree. I mean, I think that, you know, I was accused by someone of our fan base watching one of my call-in shows or what have you, say, Chris, why don't you put more accountability on Shane Beamer instead of deflecting to Clayton White or Marcus Satterfield or Dabo Loggins or a coordinator? And so I went out of my way after this game to make the point that, you know, and it's not anything personal. It's not saying fire Shane Beamer. It's not a personal vendetta, but it's at the end of the day, Shane Beamer is 100% responsible for what we've seen this season, for the failure that's been in year 3 of his tenure. His roster mismanagement, lack thereof of building a roster, failures in the transfer portal, this season is a direct result of that, guys. Shane Beamer thought he could go out in the transfer portal after a mass exodus and plug holes in his roster with players from Yale, from Charlotte, from Western Illinois, from Mercer. And listen, I know they've had success, right? They've had success. Mario Anderson's a great example, but that's a one-off. That's the exception. That's not the rule. And so South Carolina was gutted in the portal. We labeled them as losers in the transfer portal. Many of Gamecock Nation disagreed, but I think we're seeing that, right? And so at the end of the day, no players on this roster without Shane Beamer's approval, no coaches on this coaching staff without Shane Beamer's sign-off. So everything that happens, for better or for worse, it falls at the feet of Shane Beamer. And if you don't like that, you can give that $6.5 million per year check to somebody else. That's the responsibility you hold. So, Mark, to your point, I think all this season has been is a reflection of the failures of managing and building this roster over the offseason leading into year 3 of his tenure.
You said it earlier, Chris, you wouldn't trust this South Carolina team to go undefeated in Conference USA. Well, this weekend, you're taking on a Conference USA team, the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. Now, 1 being not a chance, 10 being an absolute lock. What is your confidence level in facing the 7-2 Gamecocks of Jacksonville State?
Great question, Diesel. I haven't really done my full team breakdown. We had a guy named Thomas Ashworth on the show over the offseason that actually covers the Jacksonville State Gamecocks, and we had great conversation with him. And they were really, really excited about their football team. And obviously, Rich Rodriguez is a name that many Gamecock fans and college football fans will recognize. On a scale of 1 to 10, Diesel, I'd probably put my confidence level at a 6.5 because I feel like South Carolina should win. I feel like South Carolina
That's really
win.
low, man. That's really
I know,
low.
but
I expected 9.5.
Dude, I just like I say 6.5 because I don't think South Carolina is going to lose necessarily. But I look at the spread and it's around 16 or 17, and guys, I don't feel like South Carolina is 17 points better than anybody right now. And maybe I'll be wrong. I hope to be wrong, but I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm letting some doom and gloom creep in, or maybe the 4 straight losses has worn on me a little bit, but I'm just expecting the unexpected. And I think the Gamecocks will win the football game, but I think it'll be a really tough, hard-fought, very uncomfortable throughout the duration of the game type of performance, even if the Gamecocks win this game by 14 or 17 points.
So, Chris, we don't get to see South Carolina against Southern Cal, so we can't settle who is the real USC. We did get to see South Carolina against Missouri, so we got to settle who's the real Columbia. Okay? Should Jacksonville State beat South Carolina, can I get you on record saying Jacksonville State is the real Gamecocks?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you have to tip your cap at some point, Mark. I mean, if that happens, what can you really say?
I can't believe you just said that. I can't believe you just said that. Chris Phillips timestamp at 4:48 and 42 seconds on October 30th. If Jacksonville State beats the South Carolina Gamecocks, it is they who are the real Gamecocks.
Hey, I'll give them all the credit in the world, man. They'll deserve it. I believe stuff like that should be settled. You want to call yourself the real Carolina or the real USC or the real Gamecocks, you got to go out and win, Mark. So, I mean, it's kind of the last thing South Carolina can cling to right now with some of the losses they've taken this year. So you better go out there and win Saturday, because if you're not the real Carolina, or you don't reside in the real Columbia, or you're not the real Gamecocks, then I don't know what you are at this point.
Chris, can you think of another team in college football that has claim to as many the real blank matchups as South Carolina? I can't think of how many more there could be who have more mascot, city, moniker, color scheme, any of that. I can't think of any other team that's got that many. Now, as you look back against to Jacksonville State, and I know you said you haven't really had a whole lot of time to do your full assessment of them. I mean, this is a team that is up and down, up and down. When they're up, they are way up. They put up 49 against East Tennessee State. They put up 35 against Sam Houston, 45 against Middle Tennessee State, 41 against FIU. I mean, I understand that they're not really putting up huge numbers against power defenses here, but how many points do you think South Carolina is going to have to score to beat a team like that?
Guys, I'd probably say 30 plus just to feel comfortable about it.
Oh my gosh, you are so down on the team. I've never heard this before. 30 plus a 6.5 confidence to beat Jacksonville State? Like you'd be more confident beating Vandy than Jacksonville State right now.
Even Furman, put some points on South Carolina's defense. And I know it was a more spirited effort against Texas A&M. I totally get that. But again, guys, I'm to the point where I don't recall the last time I saw the Gamecocks defense, I feel like give up less than 30 points in a game. Like it feels like it's a rare occurrence. So I'm not saying that Jacksonville State is going to necessarily score 30, but to feel comfortable about the win. I mean, I guess if you're saying how many do they need to score to beat them by 1 point, I don't know, man. I hope like 14. I hope it's not a situation in which we're talking about a 49-42 shootout at Williams-Brice Stadium. So, but listen, I've been having nightmares of what Rich Rodriguez might do against that Gamecocks defense. And again, this serves as a bounce back, get right game, I suppose you could say. But guys, Mark, to your point, I'm just I've been beaten to a pulp Gamecock right now.
All right. So we said about a year ago on this show that South Carolina had found its Dabo Swinney. I'm no longer sure that's a compliment, Chris. Okay, I no longer am. But I want to say this: we've got a clip here to play for you of Shane Beamer after the game. This darn right sounds like Dabo. in some of the most cheesy, most annoying ways, in my opinion, Chris. Tell me if this burns your brownies, Shane Beamer, after the loss on Saturday.
We talk about staying in the fight, meaning just continuing to battle and stay in the fight. And our guys stayed in the freaking fight today. And all we said was just get this thing to the fourth quarter and let's find a way to win it. And we got it to the fourth quarter. It was a one-score game after the touchdown, and we just couldn't quite get over the hump. That's disappointing.
The goal at South Carolina is just to be in the game in the fourth quarter, Chris. Just our guys stayed in the freaking fight. Did that annoy you like it annoyed me?
Mark, I'll answer your question with this. I was asked after the game, how do I expect and how would I prefer Shane Beamer to respond to his critics and his naysayers and the criticism? And my response to that question was simply this. I don't want to hear it in a press conference. I don't want to hear find some joy. I don't want to hear it on Tuesday and a Sunday teleconference. Go out, get really good football players, and go win games. Like all of that extra stuff in the post-game pressers, any press conferences, the rah-rah speeches, like I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. I think Gamecock Nation is tired of hearing it. And to your point of those comments, I get what Coach Beamer's doing. I know he's the infectious, positive guy. He's continuously uplifting his football team. I totally get that. But we've talked about it before. When you're losing, it just doesn't play well. And it's another example where it shouldn't be a viral clip. I'm not saying like we should make a bigger deal of it than it is, but it is nauseating, guys. But the more nauseating thing is the fact that South Carolina had a chance to win a football game and they didn't execute. But certainly to go out there in the post game and make it sound like you're just grateful to be in the fight and be competing. And again, I know he's trying to uplift his football team and keep his guys positive, but man, it is really, really, really tough to stomach when you've got a fan base that is so hungry to be not just competing, but be winning at a championship level. So to your point, Mark, yes, it makes your stomach turn hearing it. And trust me, it plays about as well on social media as you would think it does, because I think we posted that exact clip to social media on Sunday morning, and folks were not too thrilled with it.
Stayed in the freaking fight. Look, Chris, I don't think Arkansas is a bad football team. I think they play in the SEC, and they're not as good as other SEC teams. I don't think South Carolina is a bad football team. You lost 30-17 to a team that has top 10 talent in America, right? But if Shane Beamer feels like, man, we achieved the goal, we are in the freaking fight against Jacksonville State in the fourth quarter, They got bigger problems than I thought. I mean, that can't be the goal against everybody. Chris, as always, man, thanks for joining us, and thanks for your open and honest opinions. That's why we value them. Appreciate it, man. What's good, my friends? Not football in the Palmetto State.
Whoa. Furman won.
Oh, hell yeah. The Furman Paladins. But why does it feel like Diesel, the rest of the teams are effing me all the time? It should be Furman. The rest of the teams are effing me all the time this year. Sucks, man. Just giving you, the fans, giving us, the talk show hosts, nothing of a compelling nature to discuss. But we're still going to be compelling anyway. That's what we do. We're pros.
Offsides on the defense. Number 54, 5-yard penalty. Replay, first down.
Yeah, Trey in Kentucky threw the flag on me. Throwing a flag. South Carolina won last year, Mark. It is Carolina versus Clemson in the Palmetto Bowl. Evidently, at some point, Trey, I didn't realize I did this. And you nailed me. You nailed me. So anytime on Offsides, you can throw the Offsides flag. You know how on Pardon the Interruption, they do the errors at the end of the show? You hear an error, you want to call us out on something, you can throw the flag, okay? Absolutely throw the flag. Throw the flag.
God, if we had to play a 20-second soundbite for every time either one of us made a mistake, we wouldn't get to much of a show.
No, not much at all. Not much at all. Texter says, Mark, I knew the hiring of Dowell Loggins was a mistake, and I laughed when they did it. I lived in Chicago and a lifelong Bears fan. And I remember how bad the offense was when he was the offensive coordinator. Wow, Dowell Loggins, that's right, was the Bears offensive coordinator. He couldn't get it right with 3 or 4 other teams either, and he couldn't get it done on the college level. And that's why he ended up as a tight ends coach. South Carolina got what they paid for. Sincerely, Ron. Good
they
to
got
hear
their
from
guy.
you, Ron.
They got their guy. We got the guy we wanted.
You know what he's making, Diesel? $1 million. And you know what I would say? $1 million does not buy what it used to. Chris Phillips, scale of 1 to 10 confidence level. By the way, Diesel, what do you think? Should Chris Phillips admitting that the real Gamecocks is on the line? Is that a podcastable clip?
Oh man,
what do you
We're
think?
trying to upset people, aren't we?
Oh, why not?
We're trying to.
Yeah.
Madcraft says, has Diesel acknowledged the removal of the Palmetto team's gear yet? Well, Madcraft, it's hard for you to tell, I'm sure, through the poor video quality there, but they just repainted the walls here in the studio. So the painters took all of the things that were hanging on the wall directly behind Mark, took that stuff down so they could slap a fresh coat of paint on it. I didn't know that until about 30 minutes before the show started. So no, I didn't have time to put everything back up. Plus, it still reeked of paint in here when we came in. So maybe that explains why some of our takes today.
Oh, it absolutely does. We are woofing it. We are woofing it inadvertently.
So we just haven't had a chance to put all that stuff back up yet.
That is the case. Texter says, I don't think Loggins has been that bad. Too many screens, but overall not bad. Mongo concurs. He says the offensive game plan hasn't been bad. I don't know what that dude is talking about. Texter says, Mark, going back to the Notre Dame game last year, and now Clemson's record is 7-7. You are what your record says you are.
He thought
Shane Beamer is 17-17 in his tenure at South Carolina.
He thought we had removed the Clemson and South Carolina flags because both teams are struggling. Now, Madcraft, that would be the humane thing for us to do. Would have been the humane thing for us to do. Unfortunately, no, that's not the case.
Texter says, let's see. I almost went dressed to the kids' trunk trick or treat, dressed as Broken Foot Beamer last night. Text of the day, Spur Daddy.
2 different color red shirts on and a walking cast on your foot.
Oh, man. Oh, that's funny. He almost went as Broken Foot Beamer last night with a walking boot. Hurricane Jeff says, the texture is correct as to the time and channel of the game. The only problem is 8 a.m. Sunday morning is going to be the Clemson game on a tape delay.
And they're going to be, due to time constraints, they're going to be moving ahead in the action.
Well, then they're going to say there was no action, so we have nothing to move forward to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Third down stops are really going to make a whole lot of airtime there.
Incredible. All right, my friends, it is time for us to do that jam. We call it the Top 5 at 5. The top 5 biggest sports stories of the day. The top 5 topics we're discussing. Ladies and gentlemen of the upstate, Offsiders. The top 5 at 5 starts right now.
And now, the top 5 at 5.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hit it.
5.
At number 5, Clemson 4-4. What an absolute and total disgrace. Top 5 talent in America. Not by the opinion of myself, okay, but the opinion of 24/7 Sports, CBS-owned Total Team Talent Composites. Clemson has top 5 talent in America. There is nobody in America getting less out of more right now than is Dabo Swinney, okay? And what Homer media tends to do, okay, is just address what is. Okay, yeah, Cade made a couple bad decisions. He's got to read that better. The offensive line got confused by some of the stunts of NC State. They need to pick those up. Can it, please? Can it? We're not assessing what is here. We're assessing what should be addressed and how Clemson got to where we are at 4-4. Okay? Because as we sit here today, we sit here and look at South Carolina at 2-6 and Clemson at 4-4, the combined 6-10 record. would go down as the 4th all-time worst record between these two teams this century. Yeah, I'm a big enough nerd to have gone back and figured that out. All right? 4th worst record this century. This is an absolute and total disgrace. Diesel, I feel like I am Crazy Ralph today, but against Clemson. That's where I feel like I'm at. So, number one, let's acknowledge that Clemson is a mediocre team whose effort and focus have fallen off a cliff.
May God have mercy on this program.
Yeah, there is a degree of quit that has happened. This team is quitting right now. And the number of Clemson fans that are going to pick the Clemson Tigers over Notre Dame can be counted on one hand.
Our fans suck.
In the long term, and from a gratitude standpoint, I do believe this could be a good thing for the Clemson fan base.
Clemson fans, calm down.
Clemson fans had become entitled and spoiled by success.
Just get a grip, would you?
Just as I was at Florida when Florida won. So this humble pie will increase the appreciation and gratitude when Clemson finally makes it back.
I hate to say that I told you so, but I told you so.
Well, let me tell you this. Guys. You can say Mark Ryan, you're a bad fan. You're a bad Florida fan. We're not going to be bad Clemson fans. Well, here's my recommendation. You've now underachieved 3 years in a row. Close your wallet. Stop going to the games. Hit Clemson where it hurts. I did it to my alma mater. I stopped going to games when Will Muschamp was the coach, and you know what happened? They made a change. Now, I'm not advocating for Dabo to be fired. I'm advocating for change. Change in many different areas. Change in these areas, because here is why Clemson is where they are. Number one, they've missed on 2 straight quarterbacks. Number 2, they've had poor staff hires and poor player development. Number 3, they have fallen behind. They've fallen behind in the NIL and the transfer portal era. And number 4, they're stubborn in their philosophy. Dabo is stubborn in their philosophy. Cade and DJ are not NFL players. When you have a 5-star, the goal is for them to be an NFL player. That's their goal. Poor staff hires who are not developing these guys. You're seeing that happen, right? Clemson is not going to get in bidding wars for transfer portal players. Those were the words of Don Munson on this show. Well, perhaps they should, right? Perhaps they should. Dabo doesn't like the portal. Diesel says players write Clemson off because they know Dabo doesn't like the portal. And then the stubborn philosophy on so many different things and so many different points. What was the word that JD said, Diesel, that Dabo said after the game? He said he was confused, or earlier in the show, he said the word Dabo had for the game, like in his press conference, was what?
It wasn't disappointed.
No, it was like confused, or he didn't have an explanation or something. It was a synonym of those. Dabo, it's time to start finding them. We're giving them to you. You're just not hearing, and you're just not listening. Next up.
4.
At number 4, how about the Carolina Panthers? I smiled exactly one time.
Bizarre. Bizarre was the word.
Bizarre was the word. There you go. How bizarre, how bizarre. Bizarre means you don't get it, right? Like you don't know what's going on. All right? By the way, Clemson fans, can you let the Gamecock fans know I come hard at you guys too? You guys know this narrative that Gamecock fans float, that I kiss Clemson's backside and only slam them. Well, please say this louder for the people in the back. I'm coming after you too, okay? Carolina Panthers, how about that game? Man? Number 1 pick against number 2 pick. And CJ Stroud had all the positive pub, and Bryce Young had none of it, right? And Carolina's defense absolutely shut Houston down. A surprising 3-3 Houston. I didn't think Carolina had a snowball's chance in Hades of winning that game. And it's the first Carolina Panthers game that I've watched in its entirety, the entire season, like from beginning to end. It was awesome. I thought there were so many positive signs for Carolina. The offense was spotty, but Bryce was in command. He outplayed CJ Stroud. He looked like the right pick at number 1 overall for the first time this season. And how about Frankie Louvu in the D, man? Ton of heart. Flustered CJ, bottled up Damian Pierce, and then you had the hero Eddie Pinheiro, kicker from Florida, for the win. I thought the light bulb came on for Bryce Young. Awesome to see. They have the worst skill position talent in the NFL. Their best skill position player, Adam Thielen, collects the senior citizen discount. Bryce is creating and inventing on the fly. He's making winning plays from broken plays, and it may not happen as quickly as Carolina Panthers fans would like, but the future is so bright you need shades. And I feel that way for the first time. Next up.
3.
All right, at number 3, I just said there was a smile on my face. The Florida Gators against the Georgia Bulldogs. Guys, look, Florida had a trick play that was pretty creative on 4th and 1 that they're getting criticized for. It looked like a QB sneak. Then they snapped it through the quarterback's legs to the running back about 6 yards in the backfield, and it was a run-pass option. And it failed miserably. And Georgia goes on to win 43-20. It really wasn't even that close. For the first time in history, Georgia has beaten my beloved Gators by 20-plus points in 3 straight games. In the history of the rivalry, they won by 22. They won by 27, 22, and now 23. 43-20 is the final score. What can you say except for the fact that Billy Napier has not narrowed the gap with Georgia a wink yet? Not narrowed it an inch, and Florida's got a great recruiting class coming in. But I'll tell you, on my text chain that I have with Florida Gator graduates, most of them want Billy Napier gone. So I should say some of them want Billy Napier gone, right? I'm not there yet, but the feeling is this team can't tackle. The team's play calling is unimaginative. Billy Napier calls the plays, does not hire an offensive coordinator. And it looked to me, if you remove the team colors, that an elite team was playing a mediocre one. That's how it felt the entire game. Next up.
2.
All right. We've asked you guys today, what would the records be if Clemson played South Carolina's schedule this year and if South Carolina played Clemson's schedule? And this is going to surprise you, okay? If the Gamecocks played Clemson's schedule, I'd have them losing to Duke, beating Charleston Southern, beating FAU. I then have them losing to Florida State, so they're 2-2. I'd have them winning at Syracuse and beating Wake Forest, 4-2. Losing to Miami, that's 4-3, but winning at NC State, which Clemson did not do. Texas A&M is a far better team than NC State. South Carolina was in the game. I think they could have beaten the Wolfpack on the road. So I think playing Clemson's schedule, South Carolina would have a record of 5-3. What about Clemson playing South Carolina's schedule? Well, they would have opened with North Carolina, and given the way the Tar Heels were playing at the time, that would have been a loss. They would have beaten Furman, gotten destroyed by Georgia, 1-2. We have them beating Mississippi State at home to get to 2-2. Getting blown out at Tennessee, 2-3. Losing at Missouri, 2-4. Losing at Texas A&M, 2-5. Oh, there's one more game. Florida at home. I'm a Gator alum. I can't see Florida winning at Clemson. Hell, they shouldn't have won at South Carolina. So I've got South Carolina being one game better than Clemson, playing Clemson's schedule, and I have Clemson being one game better than South Carolina playing the Gamecock schedule. Folks, the winner of Clemson against South Carolina in the Palmetto Bowl this year might just earn the right to play in the Scrubbing Bubbles Toilet Bowl. The loser is going to have the longest offseason of their life. How long? Well, I'll channel my inner Phil Connors from Groundhog Day. It's going to be cold, it's going to be gray, and it's going to last you the rest of your life. And finally,
1.
South Carolina against Texas A&M. Can you guys tell I'm just in a crap mood today? I'm just in a bad mood. How could you not be watching this nonsense? I asked my wife to if she would be so kind as to let me just do my thing and watch college football on Saturday, and I'll do more of the family time stuff on Sunday. I ask her that, And I'm running out of excuses to stay home and watch college football. There's just not valid reasons anymore. South Carolina, you got Shane Beamer. She got Shane Beamer uttering total nonsense, loser's mentality, okay, about moral victories. Here's Shane Beamer after the game.
We talk about staying in the fight, meaning just continuing the battle and stay in the fight. And our guys stayed in the freaking fight today. And all we said was just get this thing to the fourth quarter and let's find a way to win it. And we got it to the fourth quarter. It was a one-score game after the touchdown, and we just couldn't quite get over the hump. And that's disappointing, starting with me.
Yeah. David Villamoch says, and just like that, no one is talking about Clemson leaving the ACC anymore. Oh, you don't want the SEC after this, do you? Guys, I picked South Carolina to beat A&M in the offseason, and I stuck with my pick, and they let me down. See if I give you guys the benefit of the doubt again. We had Chris Phillips last hour share with us that this game determines who the real Gamecocks are. And if Jacksonville State wins, they get the title. How about that? I thought for much of the first half, looked like I was right, was prophetic, but prophetic became pathetic real fast. I give South Carolina credit for not quitting, unlike Clemson. They come to play for what it's worth, but Beamer has failed miserably at roster construction. The offensive line is frankly offensive, and to put a quarterback as talented as Spencer Rattler behind an offensive line as deplorable as South Carolina should be against the law. It's South Carolina's offense without offensive line is a car without an engine, man. And it's a bloody disgrace. Those are today's top 5 at 5. Can you guys pick me up, man? This sucks. Like just the whole football season. We look forward to it all year. All year. The regular season ends in November. No one cares about the bowl games anymore. Right? So if you think about it, we got December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. We got 9 months that we waited patiently to have something good and compelling to talk about. And Clemson and South Carolina have given us nothing whatsoever. Shame on you, Clemson Tigers football. Shame on you, South Carolina Gamecocks. And God bless you, Furman.
I think here's what we do. Furman's sitting at 7-1 right now, 5-0 in conference. Taking on Chattanooga, sitting at 7-2 overall, 6-1 in conference. I say we provide the same coverage for Furman. The only team in the area worth a damn that we would provide for Clemson and South Carolina. Go all in on the Dins.
I once asked Booger, Diesel. So Tampa Bay was bad when I was hosting with Booger in Tampa. And when Tampa was 0-2, I called the game a must-win game. They lost. And then they were 0-3. And Booger said, what are you going to call this one? I said, it's even more must-win. He goes, you got to stop calling these must-win. And he's like, they're not winning. They're not going to win. This is what this team is. This is what the season is. And I said, well, what do you do when the team that everyone cares about stinks? And he just said, keep talking about it. Keep talking about it. That was Booger's advice to me. So that's what we do. But I think you're right. I think Furman merits increased coverage on this show. Would you guys agree with that? What say you? We got Cole Bryson joining us next with a high school football scene. Get your questions in on high school football for Cole. Coming your way next, right here on the most interactive sports talk show anywhere. It's Offsides. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel, and we are the Fan Upstate, baby.
Guys, absolutely massive turnout on the stream today. Thank you. We were up to like 17, 18 people watching at one point today. That was absolutely fantastic. Those of you who stayed with us the whole time, Madcraft, Mongo, JD, Spur Daddy, all of you guys, Dan B jumped in here for a little while. I think we had quite a few lurkers today and not so many commenters. So some of you who didn't comment today, jump in tomorrow because we're going to be here doing it again live tomorrow from 3 to 5:20.
Yeah, guys, thank you so very, very much. Awesome turnout, man. Awesome. Thank you, guys, man. Like, look, I'm in a bad mood. You can see I'm in a bad mood. We got nothing to talk about that is compelling, exciting, because these teams haven't given that to us this year. But you guys make it all the worthwhile. Thanks for giving us that little blue pill to have some pep in our step and an otherwise dreary Monday, man. We'll see you guys tomorrow.